Boom! We're live, back in the bear cave. Ladies and gentle bears, thank you all for joining us this morning. What a wonderful week it has been for all of the private bear members. Wow, astonishing. I spent the last little few days out of hot spring kind of taking a break and ended up not taking a vacation almost at all. But that's the way things go. So I guess, hey, let's dive in anyways. Nice. So right from the get-go, obviously Bitcoin is the ship to pay attention to in these waters. When she moves, she leaves a wake that disrupts almost everything in its path, and that's important for a few reasons. First off, we're currently sitting down at $8,470 for Bitcoin. See this nice red graph and trend line I've drawn out here? There's a lot of times we've tested this line. Now it also perfectly happens to line up with the outer edge of the bear claw EMA. This is important for a few reasons, but one of the main reasons being is it was already trying to test this area multiple times. Again, we almost had a crossover here, right at around the $7,962 mark. If we do break this trend line, it would be the first time that we've actually broke through that on a downwards position. So this is a very, very key point for Bitcoin's price right now, because we haven't broken below this trend line since we broke above $6,461. Now, the original top of the trend line actually started way back here when we were around 5,700. So it's important when we're watching these long-term, well, not long-term, but these trend lines kind of come into play, because they really represent, again, when you have the when you have your EMAs lining up here as well as a strong supporting trend line, this becomes almost like extra important if you were to put it in a weighted category of what we're trying to pay attention to. So I see a bunch of you guys already coming online saying you love the bear claw. Again, for those of you that don't know what the bear claw is, we do give away a lot of free indicators. Some people will charge for them. We give them away. So I'll tell you what, if you follow us on TradingView here, you can actually follow the scripts that we create by going to Arcane Bear. And then we've got the bear claw as well as the eagle crossing. These are great. They're free for everyone. You don't have to be part of the private bear den to get that. And they're super useful, extra colorful, and very helpful. So I'll just show you where that is here under scripts. You can download them. Look at this. We've got 120 likes already on this one and 65 on the eagle crossing. Remember to give us a thumbs up for those as well if you do enjoy them. But this is actually what we're watching here. This is all the yellow, or sorry, all the yellow. So it's all the green and red kind of spreads of your exponential moving averages that we see. So again, this trend line here for Bitcoin is very, very important. I want to keep an eye on this on the daily here, because if we're on the hourly right now, if we look at it on the daily, it's almost straight up. It's a lot more noticeable of an inverted trend line when you're on the daily, but on the hourly here, it looks like it's got a little bit more finesse to it. Nonetheless, again, we're looking for a potential breakdown through here. There's been a lot of signals that tell us we're headed for a potential bearish movement. Now, there's all this big money that wants to come into the space. But the thing that bothers me about this, and it's one of the reasons why I wrote up the thesis that we produced in our private newsletter this month, is we've put the Bitcoin like it's the Google or the Facebook, we've put Bitcoin in the hands of the few. Now the downside to this is technology that's originally supposed to empower the many and those who are generally in economically dire situations, such as Venezuela. There are other, I think, the likelihood of adoption in other places, which could signal huge runs for the rest of this ecosystem. Again, that's why it's so important that we watch this space. What's really noticeable, I think, as we move forward too, is if all these big boys start buying it, they're not really interested in selling it, it loses some of the original function, unless we, again, look at it solely as a remittance structure, which is the ability to send money across borders without censorship, without anyone stopping you. It doesn't matter who you are or what you are. Now, the SEC has been trying to get into ways to block particular forms of like what they call tainted Bitcoin or tainted Bitcoin wallets that have been used for supposedly nefarious purposes. Now, again, what's important about this space and this structure is that anyone should be able to send money without anyone stopping it. Now, I'm not a fan of criminal behavior, but the importance is that often governments aren't out for your best interest, right? So Venezuela is a prime example of governments not being for the people's best interest and why they need something that the government can't manipulate or control. If we start to give the regulatory bodies that control, it kind of defeats some of the purpose of why this technology is so powerful. You can't really block or stop Bitcoin, but you can really taint the way it gets used. Again, this is one of the reasons why I've started to build my other alternative thesis, which went out to the private Bear Den members last night, is that there are a lot of other ways to capitalize on this market. I think that the emerging markets are likely to take advantage of, because the infrastructural costs of building are significantly lower, yet it offers them the same forms of security, fungibility, and from their point, it's a much better investment opportunity because there's a lot more room for upside in terms of how much it costs to enter. You know, the average person in Venezuela doesn't have that much money, so buying a Bitcoin or even a part of it isn't really inside of their ballpark. Now, again, it's super important to pay attention to all these variables, because statistically speaking, Bitcoin is what the hell am I thinking? Bitcoin is already in the hands of the few. So again, we're looking for a potential breakdown right here. If it doesn't break down here, again, we had targets as high as 11, 12,000 on terms of like just an absolute absurd, I guess, bull market exuberance. And this is very, very possible. So for those of you that were around the other day in the private Bear Den members, Kraken, flash crash, Bitcoin. This was a really interesting topic. Bitcoin flash crash to $100 on Kraken is suggested was executed by hackers, the analysts are saying. This is a really interesting side point because some of these actually were filled. Some people had buys as low as $100 that were filled on that pair. Now, I'm not sure if they took that or ran, but it says the fact at the time writing this, there's no more than 75 Bitcoin of orders above $5,000 on the reputable exchanges or pairs. So again, you know, we had always suggested this, especially back in the early days, was to have ridiculously low buys on things just in case someone fat fingered, because there was no real regulation in a lot of the way this stuff was done. So we've seen flash crashes like this before. It didn't really affect the market. It didn't send too many ripples out. Again, it seems as though what they're saying is it may have come from hackers. Instead, it says also, you know, we saw Ethereum plummet to 0.1 cents in June from $319 on Coinbase's GDAX as a result of this multi-million-dollar trade. This represents a 99% loss in seconds, which was worse than Bitcoin's crash mentioned above. Again, some of these are suggested being hacks, so some of these are being considered fat finger plummets. But again, this is the reason why I have buys still set in the $1,200 range. Although I wasn't using Kraken, had I been using Kraken, well, shit, goddamn, we would have had our $1,200 Bitcoin already. It would have gone 10 times lower. So it's very interesting to pay attention. Again, remember, this space is in its beginning days. We're still so early on to see stuff like this. I'm going to keep today's show short because I actually have to go do a few things on Monday morning. I have to go pay my my internet bills and stuff today, so I have to drive out of town into a different town, and I'm feeling a little tired. It was a really long drive back from the hot spring. So we'll take a quick look at Raven. A bunch of the Bear Den members were able to profit off this. There were huge gains very quickly. So we were watching Raven. We actually had our call go out to all of our, our ideas, to all of our private Bear members. Basically, we crossed the golden cross right here around 715. We were like, hey, this is a great entry. Watch it here for the upward trend. And then bam, if you watch it, we shot up. And then over here, more importantly, we actually jumped up to touch the 314 EMA. So we did hit our top targets as per usual. Well, not as per usual, but per the market's usuality. We don't always hit the marker dead on, but the markets are actually very, very good at this game. So we hit that line. We haven't been able to break above it with volume. So I exited my trade. I was in and out last night with a few of the private Bear members, just mitigating risks. Again, because when we've seen Raven go, it just goes for massive runs. So there was kind of that FOMO. Even I was in a little bit of a FOMO mentality, which is, here you can see we've crossed above the bear claw on the daily, which is hugely powerful. And we're actually holding volume above there as well. Now there's the potential to come back down and test the 375 Satoshi, 350 or 750 Satoshi area. That's why I have markers set up here, and you can see very noticeably with the volume profile as well. Again, these moves come in so quick. Like even from the 27th, if you again, this would have been the full extension of the run, so that's usually unlikely. That was represented a 40% gain in a very short period of time. So what we're looking for now, and it doesn't look too strong, is holding volume above this EMA line. See, every time all we do is get a wick above, we haven't been able to keep anything on the hourly or the 4 hour above that line. Actually, it's only noticeable on the 4 hours, excuse me. That's not a great sign for us. Again, so if we do hold volume above this 870, 880 mark on the 4 hour, that could be very bullish. Again, on the daily, when we've seen the breakout of Raven, it moves in hundreds and hundreds of percentile. This was a 300% gain from our daily breakout on the last Raven move that we saw. We don't have a daily breakout signal here at all, although we did get one on the 4 hour, I believe, when we were down at around 635. So we were a little late to the party with the 750 call that we made here right around this VPR bottom trend line for Raven. So hats off to all the private bear members who were able to pull in some nice profits with that one. Again, we follow multiple indicators for this reason. We actually had a short on a long the exhaustion cloud come out at around 650, 670 a few days ago, and then we also had the break of the VPR cloud at 707, 710. That's why we made this one here, our admins. Thank you to Jordan for posting this one for us. As we have multiple Arcane Bear admins and traders that help keep all this data up to date, because there's just far too much to ever capture as one human being. So grateful for all the support from everyone there. Again, the fact that we can't get above this 4 hour line doesn't look great, but we've been keeping a super close eye on it because we know when Raven does its thing, oh wow, it just runs like a maniac and it flies super high. So if we look back here in the 45 minute, we're actually currently sitting on a short signal from around 8:56 yesterday. We jumped in. We had the Bear Den members caught another around 10% run yesterday. They were picking up around 780 to 800. I was on the road for this one, but the private Bear members, like I said, it's more than just me. So there's lots of people that are effectively helping each other trade and watch the markets together. It's probably one of the most exciting and inspiring things about the community is that people work together instead of combating one another. They're always helping each other learn. So I was in there last night, just kind of jumping in and out for a few percent here and there, just watching, because again, I want to be in a trade, but it's still there's a lot of room for downside here. Even on the 45 minute, we could drop all the way down to 721 to test both the previous, well, at least on the 45 minute and the hour. Let's check the hour. Yeah, both on the hour and the 45 minutes the same. There's a big buy wall here at around 734. And then our extensions on the EMA bring us down to anywhere between 700 and 720. So the 734 line is where I'm looking for potential re-entries. Again, this actually looks like it could be a flag, although I would want a little bit more confirmation. That's why, again, I was entering and exiting so quickly last night, is because the downside risk right now is almost as profitable as the upside risk. So downside risk is another 20%, where the upside on the 4 hour and the daily is almost the same, right? And when I have that, yeah, it's around 26% to the upside on the 4 hour, which would bring us to around 1,071 satoshis. So when we have counter risk that's almost 50-50 for me between the downside and the upside, I'm very, very cautious with whether I'm in or out of a trade, because again, you can easily wipe out anything you had just made by sitting or hodling that position. Again, this is why it's so important to learn how to enter and exit. I did want to take a quick look at BSV as well. The only reason I wanted to do this is because I felt the private bear members got something that was of extreme value in the newsletter that I wanted to share with everyone. Don't fucking underestimate controversy. Think about Donald Trump, for example, right? This is not a great person necessarily, nor was it a great platform, but the controversy of that particular idea and that particular platform at the time was able to move mountains in consideration because of how confused some people are. in general. So I did add BSV to the constant watch list because of that controversy line, and it sits at a 1-to-1 formula in most of my investment thesis. Anyways, I'm going to leave it off with that. Just a short show today. I will be back for the rest of the week every morning here, somewhere around 8 a.m. I'm really excited to be back. We're gearing up. Most of my focus right now that I got from the weekend is going to be on getting physically offensive, which means I'm probably going to spend some time in Panama, hitting up the jiu-jitsu gym as well as the regular gym, going on bike rides, because the next stage of the business development that we're working on is going to have me moving all the time. So I'm taking a proactive stance on health lately. I think everyone should do that, no matter where you are, but especially for me right now, it's very important to make sure that I can handle whatever comes out the gate next. Give us those thumbs up if you like this content. Thank you all for joining us. I know that we're a little sporadic, but the Bear family loves it. Again, you can join us by jumping in arcanebear.com/club if you want to sign up for the private newsletter. Again, we have smashing reviews. People have done so well in there. Again, the community support and effort is almost nonstop. There's always people chatting and working together. Today, I'm not looking at any trades to take, again, because Bitcoin is such a precarious position. If Bitcoin really decides to do something here, it could decide to do something quickly. Again, I would look at a downside of around 74.52. There's a big buy wall here, again, which would bring us in line with the first EMA on the 4-hour. And then again here on the 65.93 line, again, with the 4-hour EMA on the bear claw. That would represent a 20% drop from where we are today, and that would actually be nice for this ecosystem to see. Whether it does that or not, again, just keep an eye on this constant trend line that we have going on the 1-hour, as well as the EMAs that have kind of stacked up against each other and have tightened their position over the last few days. This is Tia with the Arcane Bear. I want to thank you guys all for joining us today. I really appreciate the support and the love, as I know it's such a chaotic space in the world that we live in. You guys make it a much better place to enjoy. So this is Tia with the Arcane Bear, signing off for the day.